What if I told you the first Olympic Games weren't just about sport, but also about war, religion, cheating scandals, and even nudity? Long before gold medals and opening ceremonies, the ancient Olympics were a raw, brutal, and sacred ritual, filled with stories you've probably never heard. In this video, we're going back nearly 3,000 years to uncover the unexpected history of the very first Olympic Games, where champions were crowned not for fame or money, but for something far deeper. Let's begin. Chapter 1. Not just a game. The first recorded Olympic Games took place in 726 BCE in Olympia, a rural sanctuary in southern Greece. But the Olympics weren't just about athletics. They were a religious festival, dedicated to Zeus, the king of the Greek gods. The stadium was next to a massive temple, with a statue of Zeus that would later become one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. The athletes, they didn't compete for money. There were no medals, just a crown of wild olive leaves and eternal glory. Winning was seen as an offering to the gods, losing, almost shameful. In fact, athletes took a sacred oath to compete fairly and to train for 10 months beforehand. Anyone who broke the oath could be publicly whipped. Yes, whipped. Chapter 2. Truce in times of war. Ancient Greece wasn't a peaceful place. City-states like Athens, Sparta, and Corinth were often at war with each other. But during the Olympics, they stopped everything. Literally. A sacred Olympic truce, called the Ekacheria, was announced so that athletes and spectators could travel to Olympia safely, even from enemy cities. Breaking this truce was considered an insult to the gods, and it rarely happened. This peaceful pause was so respected, it lasted for over 1,000 years. Imagine that. A sporting event so important, it could stop war. Chapter 3. Who could compete? Now here's where it gets unexpected. Only Greek men could compete. Not just any men. You had to be free, not a slave, and of Greek origin, and they competed completely nude. Yes, naked. The word gymnasium comes from the Greek gymnos, meaning naked. They believed the male body in its purest form honoured the gods. And women? They weren't allowed to participate or even watch the games. If a married woman was caught attending, she could be thrown off a cliff. But here's the twist. One woman, Ciniska of Sparta, found a loophole. In 396 BCE, she entered her horses into a chariot race and won. Since the prize went to the owner of the horses, not the rider, Ciniska became the first female Olympic victor in history, without ever stepping foot in the arena. Chapter 4. The events were wild, forget soccer or swimming. The ancient events were intense, brutal, sometimes deadly. Let's break them down. Stadion race. The original and only event in 726 BCE, a 192-metre sprint, just one straight dash. Pankration. A mix of wrestling and boxing. No rules except no biting or eye-gouging. Everything else was allowed. Athletes often left unconscious or worse. Chariot racing horses, speed and violence. Crashes were common. Riders often died, but the owners got the glory. Pentathlon 5 events. Running, long jump, discus, javelin and wrestling. If you won 3 out of 5, you were declared the winner. Wrestling pale techniques included throwing, choking and joint locks. Matches went on until one man submitted by raising a finger. The crowd loved it. Blood, sweat and roars echoed in the stadium. Chapter 5. The first scandals. Think cheating is a modern problem? Think again. In ancient times, athletes tried to bribe opponents, use illegal tricks or fake injuries. The judges, called Hellanodikai, had the power to fine or publicly punish cheaters. Repeat offenders had their names carved into stone statues called zanes, placed right at the entrance of the stadium. Imagine walking into the games and seeing a statue that said, "This man cheated. Don't be like him." Talk about public shaming. One runner, Calipus, was caught bribing competitors and became one of the first names etched into Olympic disgrace. Chapter 6. The aftermath of victory. If you won the Olympics, your life changed forever. Your hometown would welcome you like a hero. Sometimes they'd tear down the city walls saying, "A city with such a champion needs no walls." Victors received free meals for life, statues in their honour, and even poems written by famous authors like Pindar. But victory came with pressure. Many athletes trained their whole lives for just one race, one throw, one moment. And losing meant disgrace, sometimes abandonment by your city or family. Fame and failure were only a heartbeat apart. Chapter 7. The Games were abandoned. The ancient Olympics lasted for over 1,400 years, but everything changed when the Roman Empire adopted Christianity. In 393 CE, Emperor Theodosius V banned all pagan festivals, including the Olympics, seeing them as unholy and unchristian. The stadiums fell silent, temples were destroyed, statues toppled, and the games that once united Greece were lost to time. For over 1,500 years there were no Olympics. Chapter 8. The Rebirth in Modern Times. In 1896, a Frenchman named Baron Pierre de Coubertin had a dream to revive the Olympic Games. He believed sport could unite nations, just like it once united Greek city-states. So in Athens, the modern Olympic Games were born, with athletes from 13 countries. There were no gods, no sacrifices, no nudity. But the spirit of competition lived on. And the most beautiful part? The Stadion Race, the first ever Olympic event in 776 BCE, was brought back. A 192-metre sprint, history repeating itself. Chapter 9. Strange and fun facts. Let's wrap up with some strange but true facts from the first Olympic Games. No second place, only the winner was celebrated. Second place? Might as well have not shown up. Athletes oiled themselves before events to show off muscle tone and protect from the sun. There were no team sports. Everything was individual glory. Spectators travelled hundreds of miles on foot or cart just to watch, camping out in the fields for days. Some athletes became so popular they were used in political campaigns and even became generals. The word athlete comes from athlon, meaning prize, but the prize wasn't money, it was honour. The Olympics today are a spectacle of nations, lights and glory, but their roots were something far more raw, sacred and human. They weren't about wealth, but worship. Not about fame, but faith. Not just games, but a mirror of life. Would you have had the courage to compete in them? Let us know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this dive into history, make sure to like, share, and subscribe for more forgotten stories from the past. Thanks for watching.